Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Cadisen C8193. This watch is available from Pagani Design Cadisen AliExpress store for €109. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the watch box comes protected by this white cardboard outer sleeve which one removes, and this is the watch box itself. The lid to the watch box has a magnetic attraction which I like, and the watch is protected in shipping by a piece of foam. It sits on a piece of foam inside a foam cutout panel, as one would expect. So although basic, it does suffice in protecting the watch in shipping, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to use a basic cardboard style watch box, bearing in mind that this is a low tier price point piece at only €109. With regards to the other items, this is the owner's instruction manual. Although basic, it does suffice. It has clear, concise diagrams and instructions in English, which detail the operation of the movement used in the piece, which is the Seiko NH35A automatic. This is the warranty card, and I'm pleased to report that the Cadisen C8193 is covered by a 12-month international warranty, which is very reassuring. And lastly, one also gets this branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth irrespective of the price point of a piece. So with regards to the specification of the watch itself, this is the Cadisen C8193. It's available in two new dial colour options, olive green and this graduated green dial version respectively. Of all the dial colour options, including blue, black and white respectively, I think that this graduated green dial is the most aesthetically pleasing. So the watch is clearly an homage to the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, and it does that very well because it has very similar case proportions. 42mm case diameter. It has a lug-to-lug measurement of 48.5mm. The thickness is 11.9mm, and we have an internal lug width to the integrated bracelet of 20mm. Externally, the integrated bracelet at its widest point measures 27mm, and it tapers down to 18mm at the 2-button push deployment clasp, which has two hidden triggers. As you can see, the clasp is signed with a Cadisen brand logo engraved to a high standard, and good firm resistance to the 2-button push triggers in the deployment clasp, so no risk of accidentally activating the deployment. As you can see, the deployment is finished to a good standard, mirror polish to the top side, underside and flanks, and good firm resistance to the two triggers. With regards to the watch, it's unusual in that it is entirely made from 304 grade stainless steel rather than the more popular option of 316L grade stainless steel. As you can see, the 304 grade has a beautiful luster to it, and Cadisen deserve full credit for brushed satin finishing the case and braced it throughout to a very high standard. I absolutely love the luster to the 304 grade stainless steel. One thing I really like about it is the Gerald Genter style bezel, which follows the classic Audemars Piguet Royal Oak style, and they've done a very good job of the screws, and also the mirror polishing to the bevels on the bezel is done very well, so the quality of the finishing to the bezel on the case is very nice. Also like these mirror polished sections which mark the transition between the tops of the lugs and the flanks, again polished to a flawless mirror finish. So the case finishing is actually very impressive, bearing in mind that this is a low tier price point piece. This is the kind of case finishing one doesn't usually see at only €109, so they deserve full credit for that. Vertical brushed satin finishing to the flanks which catches the light, and I like the luster of the 304L stainless steel, as I've discussed. The crown is a push-pull crown, which is perfectly acceptable because this isn't a dive watch, it's a daily wear piece, and the crown does provide an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters, which is perfectly acceptable. Nice profile to it. It's got a hexagonal nut profile to it, and it's signed with the Cadisen emblem, as you can see. Screw down exhibition case back, glazed with mineral crystal, and I like the finishing. It's got a matte finish to the centre section of the stainless steel portion, but mirror polish to the circumference, which adds interest. It's beautifully engraved with the specification, and it does a good job of showing off the movement, which is the Seiko NH35A automatic, which is made in Japan. So let's test the crown action. Now it's a push-pull crown, so one can manually wind it in the closed position to top up the power reserve to its maximum 40 hours. It's a nice pleasure feel to manually wind it to increase the tension in the mainspring to 40 hours. One can pull it out to the first click, and that is the quick set date complication. Sorry, the last click is the time setting position, but the first click is the quick set date complication setting. As you can see, if you look at the date complication, you can see the quick set complication works as one would expect. So 2 click positions on the crown, date complication, and the last click is the time setting position, and both work as one would expect. The Seiko NH35A is a reliable, well-proven workhorse movement, and it is a good choice for the Cadisen C8193. So it has hand binding and hacking. As you can see, I've hacked the movement. Pressing it in with a nice positive click restarts the movement, so it works as one would expect. One of my favourite aspects of this piece is the textured dial. Some collectors refer to this style of dial as a waffle dial. The correct name is Grand Tapisserie dial. It was invented by Audemars Piguet for the Royal Oak, and as this is an homage to the Royal Oak, it is good that it also has that textured finish, the Grand Tapisserie style dial. So Cadisen deserve full credit because they have produced a very good homage to the Royal Oak, and they have copied the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Grand Tapisserie dial to good effect. I like the fact it's graduated. It's green in the centre section, and it graduates to a very dark green at the circumference, which is almost black. So it's very eye-catching. Sapphire crystal, and now the negative is that it doesn't have any AR coating on the underside, and as you can see, the baton style hands and baton style indices are highly reflective. There's a lot of glare, and it is a highly reflective piece. So it could be further enhanced with the addition of AR coating on the underside of the sapphire crystal, but one has to expect some cost-cutting measures to make this viable to retail at only €109. It is a very well built and well finished piece for that price point. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now I haven't sized the bracelet, I've simply taken the watch out of the watch box, and I'm pleased to report that it does fit my 8-inch wrist with no problems whatsoever. As you can see, nice positive click to the 2-button push to point clasp, and I like the way it's signed with Cadisen. Lovely lustre to the links, and as I've discussed, the taper is very aesthetically pleasing. It tapers from 27mm at the widest point of the integrated lugs down to 18mm at the 2-button push to point clasp. So they've got the proportions of the taper of the integrated bracelet correct for the 42mm head of the piece. Feel good factor is excellent, and also the comfort level is excellent. But however, it is a large piece at 42mm, so it does wear with wrist presence, and also it does have significant heft. With all the links in the integrated bracelet, it is 180 grams. And as you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 150 grams to be the sweet spot in terms of heft. Really, for a 40 to 42mm piece, circa 150 grams gives the perfect balance between comfort, wearing a watch for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day, and also a nice feeling of quality. I like the feeling of heft on wrist. 150 grams makes the watch feel solid and also comfortable, but also it gives a nice feeling of weight on the wrist. Really, at 180 grams, it is a lot of heft, and I'd say that you may consider wanting to wear this on a 20mm rubber strap, and that would therefore significantly reduce the heft to below 150 grams. So at 42mm, it's clearly a piece that is best suited for collectors with a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches. If you're a collector with a smaller 6 to 7 inch wrist, you may find the 42mm head of the piece and the 180 grams of heft to be excessive. But having said that, they've got the lug-to-lug measurement very good. 48.5mm is close to perfection. As you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48mm to be perfection. So at 48.5, it is a very good lug-to-lug measurement for a 42mm head of the piece. Now, the thing that surprised me about this, bearing in mind it is a Seiko NH35A automatic powered piece, is it is only 11.9mm thick, and Cadisen deserve full credit because producing a NH35A powered piece at under 13mm is impressive. At 11.9, that is just under 12mm, which is very impressive, and it's something that very few watch brands can do. One often sees NH35A watches in excess of 13mm, so I think it's very good that this is only 11.9 because that does offset the 42mm width of the piece. And the proportions of the bracelet, tapering from 27 down to 18, do balance the large head of the piece very well. So the green graduated dial is very aesthetically pleasing. I like the symmetry of it, and I also like the fact that it's not over branded with text or specification. It simply says Cadisen at 12 o'clock, and then it says 100 meters / 330 feet and automatic at the 6 o'clock position. Date complication at 3 is the correct choice. So really it is a very good looking piece, comfortable to wear despite the heft of 180 grams. So let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to its absolute maximum. Now, bearing in mind that this is only €109, it's a low tier piece. To be honest, I haven't got high expectations of the Lume because, as I've discussed, one has to expect some cost cutting measures, bearing in mind the low tier price point of this piece. But we'll charge it up to its absolute maximum as always with my 100 UV LED torch, and we'll see how it performs. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see it clearly uses C3 Luminova. Obviously if it was C3 Super Luminova it would have better performance, but that would inevitably mean an increase in production costs and therefore an increase in retail price from €109. So I think the Lume is good, bearing in mind that it is C3 Luminova and it is performing to an acceptable standard. The negative of using baton hands and also baton indices as per the Royal Oak is that it doesn't allow great large Lume plots for the C3 to be applied. But however, this is glowing to a reasonable standard and it is continuing to glow for a reasonable length of time. So I'd describe the Lume as being okay quality. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet two criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So at €109, that is a very good competitive price point. Really, to fully summarise it, I need to discuss the specifications of the movement, which you'll all be familiar with. It uses the Seiko NH35A, which is made in Japan. It has 24 joules, it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. It has hand binding and hacking, which are useful complications, and the stated accuracy is -20 to +40 seconds per day. 40-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. Now I'm pleased to report that this one has been well regulated to well within those -20 to +40 limits, and it's running at +8 seconds per day, which is very good for €109 watch. So bearing that in mind that it's using a Seiko NH35A, it has sapphire crystal, 100 meters of water resistance and a 12-month warranty. Yes, I consider it to be excellent quality, and yes, I consider it to be excellent value. I'm going to declare it a champagne watch for lemonade money, and I think if you're looking for an homage to the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, this is a very good offering, bearing in mind it is only €109. Feel good factor is excellent, and also the comfort level is excellent, and I think it would also look very good if it were worn on a rubber strap, and because it's got a 20mm internal lug width, that's going to be no problem at all. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Cadisen C8193. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.